Welcome to the Leadership Labs with DeepRec.ai, a podcast where we delve into the fascinating world of deep tech entrepreneurship, company founders, and venture capitalists. I'm your host, Anthony Kelly, and I'm thrilled to have you join us in this exciting journey. In each episode, we explore the minds behind groundbreaking technologies, the visionaries who dare to push the boundaries of innovation, and the investors who fuel the growth of tomorrow's game changers. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Leadership Labs. Today, I'm joined with Al-Tamini, and Mo has played a critical role with a lot of scale-up companies, particularly around AI, in helping them with establishing HR processes, people processes, and culture processes. And I guess where we want to touch on today is a part that people generally don't look at until the businesses is 50, in some cases 100 people plus. But what's so hard about that is it's like you can't put the genie back in the bottle. How do you backstep from 100 people and say, oh, culture is now important, while if you have a churn culture, it's really hard to sort of move away from that. And I mean, we're going to talk about some of these examples. But Mo, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Anthony. It's always a pleasure. I mean, we've talked back and forth for quite a while. We did a podcast, I think it was a year and a half ago, approximately, and it was behind machine learning and AI. Lovely. I enjoyed it so much. I think you had a few friends from, or a few colleagues and associates from multiple companies. One of them, I think, was in Malta, and if I remember correctly. But yeah, it's always a pleasure talking to you. I've been in the people space for quite a while. When I say quite a while is 2 decades plus, and that's usually not quite the norm in a lot of people that work in human resources, because a lot of them, are into certain board levels and not really wanting to be practitioner. I'm very hands on what about the people space, and it's topics like this that really tick to me, like diversity, equal opportunities, etc. When it comes to organizations, like you say, if we talk about small organizations or large organizations, it's when is the right time to diversify? When is it? How do you create a culture that is, open to everyone's aspects? And we'll talk into several spaces, including policies, including benefits, and we can go about looking into a lot of things. So I'll work on a shoot and answer basis, and let me know if that works for you, and we can take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, look, first off, a lot of leaders, a lot of founders would be the audience here. They might feel like they have the people covered in their business by themselves, spinning multiple plates. Give them an overview of what you feel like someone who's doing people and culture is, and how it's not a part-time job.
So when I go into people and culture, I always say, if the senior most person in your organization isn't involved in the people and culture space, and that is usually the managing director or the CEO or the general manager, whatever the title is, or if the board does not have an agenda item on people and culture on the organization, and it's all about, and it's focused around retention, engagement, development, growth, innovation, I think your organization is failing or is on a circular basis of recycling people. Because when people join an organization, the first thing they look at is the future of them in that business. So if you as an organization don't have those items in your agenda, then clearly your organization works on a cycle, a very vicious cycle of hire and fire. And what that does is a lot of startups end up failing miserably because they cycle between so many employees, and they're never proactive, they're very reactive. So they will talk to a person when he receives an offer from another organization. If your board, if your leadership team had people on their agenda, rather than focusing on finance, I'm not saying finance is not important, that's a key driver in the businesses, but I think people are also key drivers of businesses. And if your agenda does not evolve around people, and you are in for a long run of vicious turnovers and reputations like you see in organizations through Glassdoor, through Kununu, through multiple sources. Especially with the younger generation, Gen Zs, they really want future. They really want sustainability. They've woken up. We're not back to the baby boomers where they'd stay 30 years in a company and grow slowly. You really have to be proactive in order to retain the best talent across the globe. So
Yeah, that's not something you see in a while. I think what the average tenure being about 15 months at the moment.
crazy, right?
Yeah, and funny you mentioned that as well. Of course, because we're talking on the point of people and hiring and recruiting as part of that. I have so much statistics on this, and I believe it's like 80% of people now who leave their company is not because of financial remuneration.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I always say this: a financial remuneration is as good as the next payroll. If you give someone money before they've actually received it, they've spent it in their heads. So the significance of you giving them that money is as long as a 1 month cycle. After that, it's become a thing of the past. But if you create engagement, if you have communication platforms, if you have growth and development, if you have career paths for people that perform, then your organization is never talking about, oh, that's a last month thing. Because in today's world, I mean, where the price hikes that happened in the last 2 years have been ridiculous all across Europe, obviously, and across the globe per se. But when Europe is significantly impacted because of political situations, and I think organizations try to say, yeah, you should be lucky you have a job. No, to me that the approach is wrong. It's not you should be lucky to have a job. What can I do to make your life better? How do we come up with something to make your team more productive through a time where it's very ambiguous and no one knows, will I still have my job 6 months from today? Will I still be able to cater and support my family? So it's always about proactive thinking rather than having everyone in your organization incapable. And when they ask for increments, or do you know the price of whatever has gone up? Yeah, but you know what? Get rid of that table tennis. Get rid of all these events that you're doing, and let's focus on our growth rather than just saying you're lucky you have a job. That mentality isn't sustainable at all. I mean, I don't like using this, but during a time where, and this is a person that I think a lot of people might think he's critical about the way he does things and the way he communicates and the kind of business model they run. But we'll look at a sporting organization, the UFC. They drove through the pandemic with events every weekend, whilst the rest of the sporting world was at a seizure. People were playing in empty stadiums. No one was interested in soccer because someone thought outside the box. People lost jobs due to the pandemic. The UFC didn't lose a single person. They might not be the best way they do business practices, but you know what? They retained their people through a very tough time, and people in that organization continue to work while everyone else says, you know what? Yeah, it's a tough time, it's a pandemic, a solution was found. That's what a leader needs to do. A leader needs to go out and do everything for his team members because those are the people that got him there. And without them, I don't think they'll be able to take a few steps forward. So it's important that the leader is really involved in this kind of situation. So
Right. And if we talk about this and leadership in startup businesses, it's hard to get Right. There's the juggling of 101 tasks at any given time, right? It's the leader of the business is generally the marketer, the finance guy, the team manager, and also an individual contributor in a lot of respects.
Mm-hmm.
Where and how, or where is a solution for someone early to start thinking, "Do you know what, I want to think of my people," because there is a trade-off, right? I mean, I can see it now. I'm a five people now in Deep Rec, and I'm everything. I'm ordering office furniture. I'm buying bags for the rubbish bin.
Yeah,
I'm a contributor. I'm monthly, weekly, daily meetings with the team.
yeah.
Um, I want people to be number one. I want my people to be number one. At that, how do I look at that externally without projecting what my expectation or what my understanding of people are?
So to me, it's very simple. I mean, it might not, it may sound very complicated, but if you are an organization that is small, you shouldn't be limited to job scopes and job responsibilities, right? Everyone should be putting hands on board, and I mean everyone, including the CEO, the founder, the secretary, the finance guy. Everyone should be involved in supporting each other to make the organization successful. Because at the beginning, if everyone has a clear line of responsibilities, the problem then becomes is you end up hiring a lot of people that you really don't need on a full time basis. So the attitude of I'm a CEO, I'm a founder, I don't do such things, I will deploy people to do such things is a wrong mentality. Um, and this is where the culture of an organization, once you balance between the role of a CEO in a small fixture, to me, that's just another team member. It's not a CEO. You only start becoming a CEO per se. The title may be there, but you only have, you start becoming a CEO when you're able to delegate responsibilities to people. That's when you can say, hey, this is your subject area of expertise. So an organization be below 20 employees or below 15 employees, everyone should be all hands on deck. Yes, someone can drive the project, but we shouldn't say, no, the CEO is too busy to look at an Excel sheet or too busy to edit a presentation. I think everyone needs to put in their hands on board, and whether it's ordering furniture or ordering toilet paper, at the end of the day, you are doing it not for you but for your team. And if you don't take that step, in fact, I think the CEO should say, you know what, I think you're hired for a more important thing. Let that toilet roll issue become an automated process rather than function. Think of a way to automate these processes rather than creating dependencies on other people, because it's important that you as an organization, even though it's going to cost you a little bit extra, outsource it, for crying out loud. But don't say, no, this is your responsibility. And every month, what if that person is sick? So no toilet paper for a week in the office. That's not going to be fun in any way possible. So I think all hands on deck is quite important. And it's a culture where at the beginning of a small organization, and even though you become an organization that is 50, 60, 100, 200 employees, if the CEO walks down the corridor and doesn't high five everyone on his way to the office, then yeah, that CEO really needs to get in touch with his employees. It doesn't matter how big your organization is. We are all people, and we should all think alike, and we should all understand each other's requirements and feelings and needs. So
Do you think that one comes down to it's like a leadership quality, right? Tribe mentality. As long as
yeah,
you're the same size of a tribe, you should be able to make that extra effort for communication. Appreciate 500 people, five different offices, not going to work.
yeah. I mean, it's not easy when it's multiple organizations, but I think the effort is always appreciated. So if you have town talks from time to time, and those town talks shouldn't be about company updates and etc. etc. You should discuss real issues that are prevalent to the team. So there should be a communication where employees need to voice their concerns. And then during those town talks, rather than company updates, let's address what concerns exist in the organization. I mean, if a CEO just gives you update, that's one way communication, and you're not listening to what your team members have to say. So you walking down the corridor and saying hi to John or saying hi to Khalid or saying hi to Ranjan or whoever it may be, um, on the way to the office, and you able to spark a conversation, creates a really strong mutual bond. So when there is a problem, people will be honest with you. But when there's a gap in communication, when there's something wrong, you don't find out until it's too late because they don't trust you and you don't trust them. So
Yeah.
it's quite simple.
Now, speaking of the mind of a founder, I'm pretty sure I could confidently say 90% of founders have probably read the book Traction, right? They found a business, they ultimately think product focused first, get our name out there, employer branding, what's our values, benefits, culture, right? They're all designed from a sole person at the beginning, and it stays designed by a sole person
Yeah.
until someone like you comes in and probably sees flaws, things that could be changed or could be improved. What's your experience like with that? Like, what do you see a lot of? What do you clean up?
So when I go to a team and when I at least embark on a journey with an organization, I consider it as my top priority. I consider it as a key aspect in the success, not only of me as an individual, but as an organization as a whole. And like you say, a lot of the times, I think the way people address values is they they start small, they set these values, and they remain there for the rest of their lives. I think if you're a startup, your values will change year on year because your priorities change and your team gets more diversified. And if you're doing a top down approach to values, clearly there's something wrong because not everything evolves around you as an individual. You have a team. So when I go about values, what I do is I set a top 50 set of values that we would really like to have in the company. See what's important to us. The leadership team can narrow it to, let's say, top 20 values. And then now the homework goes to let's get people's inputs on these values. What is important to us as an organization as a whole? So if those values don't come from the employee or comes from five people that are sitting in a room that have no idea of what's happening in the business on a day-to-day operations, then those are not the people that set the value of the business. You know, I wrote an article, The Iceberg of Ignorance. The top leadership team only know a certain percentage of what's going on in an organization. They don't know the nitty-gritties. They just take decisions based on 4% of information, while 96% of the information is actually missing. So if you fix that issue between communication, between daily updates, between you being the average Joe rather than being the CEO of a business, then you might, that iceberg doesn't become a problem where the iceberg is more afloat. And you getting to 20%, 30% of understanding what's happening is the beginning of this situation. So values should come from the employees. They should never be top up. I don't care how small of organization you are or how big of organization you are. If your values are not driven by your employees and they don't have a say in your values, it's not a sustainable value set. It's just for show. And if for show is not authenticity, and authenticity survives, and anything that's not authentic will not survive.
Pretty
I had a
already
crazy
given me
thing
my
is
own personal thinking points there about how I put our five disciplines and four values on the wall after watching the movie by Nike, the Air Jordan
okay.
movie. I read the book as well, but
Yeah,
I thought they were just a little bit more. They came across a lot more punchier in the movie.
Hmm.
because I kept on showing them on the wall.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, I definitely think I have an exercise in January coming up already.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's always you'll be surprised, and this is where I think I'm on a as I said, I'm on a mission to soon become a founder myself. But coming from the people side of things, I am more valued to understanding what is most important, and it goes to simple things like this. So when I start a business, I know the jurisdiction I'm working in. I'm working in Germany, right? There's certain public holidays. My focus, I've already thought of this 10 steps ahead, right? I have a focus, I have a an aspiration to have a very diversified team. And what I would like to do is when I look at benefits, and this is where a lot of organizations fail. When you look at benefits, I know everyone gets um, a year-end Christmas holiday. But if you have people from other cultures, they don't celebrate Christmas. Where is their Christmas holiday? So what I would like to do is, in addition to the annual leave, we give people that Christmas holiday break. They can work and they can decide not to work on the Christmas holiday. The government is off, right? But I would also like to give people from different cultures and people from different religions a variable holiday where they can take holidays on their religious holidays and really spend time with their families and not have to take it from their annual leave. Then this is again thinking ahead. It's just a day or two. People give people holidays for their birthday. Birthdays, you can do it on a weekend. You don't need to do it on your date of birth, right? You never celebrate in the middle of the week if it's your birthday. But when it's a public holiday or when it's a religious event holiday, you would like to spend time with your family because, it's the time that you need to spend. It falls, example, in the middle of the week. And don't want you to take from your annual leave to go in the middle of the week. So I've created a flexible policy where you have your example, your 30 days, and then you've got 3, 4 days a year for every person, including the ones that are given by the public government, to take religious holidays. So Thanksgiving is already given. And we're working in Europe, and all these religious holidays are based on European, but it's the other people that don't get to enjoy their local. So I will give them an extra 2 days, and I will give an extra 2 days to my German colleagues or to the people from these countries in order to have flexible days to spend time with their family. So they get up getting an equal amount of days, and all of them get to celebrate the holidays from whichever region they belong. And when you get people to really appreciate that you respect and honor their religious or personal celebrations the way they're celebrating every other public holiday here, then they become engaged. They feel a sense of belonging. And my focus is to ensure the only turnover that happens in the organization is not due to an error by the organization. It's an opportunity where this person has a huge role that they've met, and we don't have that opportunity to give this individual. And I will bless their transition to the next organization. I will not try and blockade them. I will give you this much money because that's not the way we'd like to do things. You know, if you are, if people are happy, they will produce, and if people are engaged, they will produce. But if people are not, then you have gone through this vicious cycle of hiring and rehiring and hiring and rehiring, and it's just a really bad balance. So,
So on that topic, right? That's a great idea. I really like it. I'll be honest. I've worked in businesses in the UK. St. Patrick's Day is celebrated in the office, but I would never get the day. And we would do very similar for Eid
yeah,
and other holidays across the year, right? We'll have a day for Thanksgiving, but if there's
yeah,
an American in the UK office, they might not necessarily get the day off. And I
yeah,
can completely see where you come down that sense of belonging, because that is when we said 80% of millennials, while they're changing jobs, isn't financial. I think belonging and belonging and purpose were
hmm,
like number one and two most important factors to them, which is great. Um, so you're going beyond even, I guess, what people would determine employer branding, values, recruitment process, benefits. You're going beyond that to create to make people and culture an environment. To empower belonging within the organization, to
Yep.
improve retention, and to look at other, I guess, I don't want to call them metrics, right? But it's in a way they're metrics that are important to the employee that you can use to retain them, to keep them motivated and engaged.
I mean, as I said, to me, it's to ensure that I am involved in the most important topics in the organization, which should be to me the people topics. As a founder, as a CEO, whatever the role is, a person who's leading the business, my top priority is to ensure that there are people coming to work and the people that are coming to work are happy. If you look at statistics, people abuse sick leave because they want to spend time with their family on these holidays. And why are we forcing people to lie to us and you don't give them that flexibility? And they might productivity will improve, sick leaves will reduce, a lot of these things. I mean, if you look at even the wellness of people, if people are falling sick, there must be a reason. They're not it's okay, sickness can go to a certain limit, but it tends to be abused more in organizations where people are not happy. And what are you going to do about it? They said they're sick, there's nothing you can do about it. And they're sick and tired of the business. That's what they are. They're not really sick. They're sick and tired of the business, and they're sick and tired of the environment that they're in. So again, it's the small things that take such huge impact to making the organization successful. And unfortunately, leaders and founders and board members, I think, need to pay more attention to these issues in order to make the organizations more successful.
So if we flip it down and go more towards the culture element of it, and how people can have an impact on that culture, like we've spoken about values, not top down, involve people, right? That's very simple thing, can be done quite easily. In fact, I'm going to set it in my diary for January that we have a day about it. Absolutely. How do you try and communicate a culture internally?
I mean, it depends on how, let's say, it depends on how bad the situation is, because not every organization you go to, everything will be set on stone and everything is running smooth. You'll have to go to this sense of understanding and get to talk to people on a one-on-one basis. Try and see where the problem lies. Like I said, the iceberg of ignorance. You need to find out what's that 96% that you're not seeing. You only see the 4% and you make a decision based on that. So having talks with people, having a chat, go for one-on-one lunches, and those one-on-one lunches should be authentic. You shouldn't, whatever they say, you shouldn't hold it against them, because they're trying to improve the environment that they're in their opinion. And you, as a people person, as an HR person, you really needs to be getting the consensus on what's happening, and not coming and waving a paintbrush and say this is how we fix culture. Listen to people, get them talking, because the first thing is, when you have an organization that doesn't talk, there's a problem. People, we're communication, we love communicating as beings in general, and if we are not talking, then there's something wrong. It's like a relationship. When your partner doesn't talk, there's something wrong.
Can I ask, Mo, where do you stand on? And I don't know if you've seen it before, but I'm sure there are some people who are doing this: one-to-one meetings, emails open, or WhatsApp or phones being present at lunch if you're supposed to be having a meaningful lunch with your team.
Yeah, I mean, I generally, I try and be authentic. I never pick up my phone. I don't care how important it is. If the world is burning, we can put water in it and it'll be fine when we're done. But when you're giving time to someone, and talking to someone, then you shouldn't really be. Ali, I'm talking, okay? Go to mommy. Okay. Daughter walks in.
Daddy.
Sweetheart, can you go to All right. Thank you. See you. Good night.
There we go. No doubt you are the culture champion of your household.
Yeah. It's always important that you make time, because I think sometimes um when you try and push away things, like we were saying, when you decide to pick up a phone and you're in the middle of a lunch, that person thinks they're not as important anymore, and you cannot ever give a person that feeling, because if they don't think they're important, they're not going to talk to you. Put your
How
phone on the side, no WhatsApp, no talking. This is a one-to-one.
how hard is
And
it to get
if the
that
board of
back?
directors is trying to get a hold of you, you'll get a hold of them when you get back to the office.
How hard do you think it is to try and get that back if you've done it? If you've done it to someone who you said, you know what, I want to know what's important to you. Where do you want to see your career go in 2024? Oh, hang on a minute, I'll be back in a second.
Yeah,
Like, do
you
you?
don't get that trust.
Just gonna say, do you think you can win them back, or do you think that action alone is?
I mean, you if they're materialistic, you can win them back with monetary, a coupon, etc. But they're not going to be authentic anymore with you. You know, it's like being in a relationship. You have to respect the person that you're talking to,
Yeah,
and you have to give them the respect that they gave you, because they gave you the respect by talking to you, by accepting your lunch invite, by accepting whatever. So you give them the respect by giving them the focus during that meeting. It's very easy to pick up a phone, and I've seen this a million times, where we're in an interview and we're talking to someone who wants an executive assistant for their office, and this is whether it's a CEO or CFO. And during the interview, sitting down, texting back and forth, going out, taking a call, and the person is there for an interview. And when we're done, I I I apologize to the candidate. The person who did that does not apologize to the candidate. I apologize, and when someone rejects an offer, the person who's hiring is surprised that this person rejected. He's like, but I offered them this much. You didn't even respect their time. You want to offer, you think money is everything in this world? It isn't. I mean, I've had so many examples where during an interview, someone is talking and someone is messaging at the same time. That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. I mean, we should come up with recorders to record some of these audio interviews rather than sit down and write whatever. We should have an AI bot listening and transliterating everything that is said, because even those few seconds that you look down to write on a paper, you're taking your eye off the candidate. You know, it's not ideal, but we have to think of respect these people, whether it's a role of a janitor, whether it's the role of a CEO, whether it's a CBO. Maintain eye contact. Do not touch your phone. Do not start going through the resume. You should have done that before you went. You should memorize what this person has done and
you
have
don't have
everything
to hit
ready,
me with that one.
rather than read.
It's
People literally read the CV during the interview.
how often I say it's like I don't even think they knew who I was or what role I was interviewing
Exactly.
for. I'm like, oh, I was like, I really hope that they kind of like this company, but it's never a good indicator, unfortunately. Um, I am conscious of time, Mo, and I did really want to sort of touch with you on the next topic about your sort of your move into AI, your venturing out.
Yeah, I'm venturing. I'm founding a company. I'm revolutionizing recruitment, basically, and I want to revolutionize the whole people space in general, because I think I've seen certain practices that are unacceptable from an ethical point of view, and I think ethics drives me more than anything, because I think it's important that to every single applicant that comes into an environment, we should respect that person because they took the time in general 15 to 45 minutes on every single application, and we don't give them the respect that the candidates deserve, right? um Whether they fit the profile or not, it is only fair that you review their profile as if they do. And why I say so, because this is a person who read a job ad. I mean, it's very easy to reject a candidate, but I want to, this idea of rejection, because there's no basis around it. So I'll give you a prime example. I applied to a role today as a CHRO in a business, and I'm sure they will get 20 minimum applications to probably 150 applications on a minimum. The time, the number varies so wide, it's really hard. But when you fit a profile to a T, and the only reason that you get a rejection is because you've exceeded at everything else, but you are one notch below the language level that was required. So everything else you have got way ahead, but that language, which there is no weightage to it whatsoever. So everything is based on I think this is not good. I think this person is not okay. But there isn't a weighted approach to things. So if I have experience, if I have capabilities, performance management, leadership style, etc., and I bench everything on the language, so I'm saying everything else is not important. If I start looking at jobs in this manner, we are giving out on probably 95% of the capabilities of people by focusing on only 5%. It's which is really, it's really tough. People can always learn. People can always learn anything. You can learn a language. You can't teach behaviors. Behaviors are embedded. And in a job application process, sometimes it's really hard to judge a behavior and capabilities of a person based on the resume. So we really need to think of a way to re-look into how we evaluate resumes, right? Or evaluate capabilities. Number two is the unconscious bias side of things, right? And this is where we spoke at the beginning before we started recording, where you have an organization that has 25 nationalities, all from a Central European region. And it's not like example, in Germany, we're quite diversified. I mean, I would say it's almost at a 50-50 level. I'm not sure. It could be different in different states all across Germany. But when you're a startup and you've got 25 nationalities all belonging to one region, and then you promote, say, we're quite diversified, it's quite telling about how the shortlisting processes work. And there's nothing wrong with having only 25 nationalities from one region, but don't claim diversity as your brand. If you're saying diversity as your brand, you should be multicultural, multi-religion, multi-color, multi-everything. I mean, I worked in a company in the UAE, and we started with um, 15 nationalities. By the time I left, we were 85 nationalities. And to work in an organization with 85 nationalities takes a lot of effort, because you're thinking, how do I make it as mixed as possible? We went on recruitment campaigns. We could have done it all in one country, but then we're not diversified. So we segmented our recruitments through multiple regions, through multiple countries, in order to have that diversity. And you understand that this is what helps the organization prosper, because everyone is working together in harmony rather than silos of big teams coming from one region that works with another team that works from another region. I mean, these issues, and once politics hits the furnace, then you're in trouble, because then there's groupings and etc., etc. So it's even tougher in a blue collar environment than it is in a white collar environment. But I always think in order to be successful and to be more innovative and to be more creative, you really need to have people that think different. Because if you don't think different, you're only looking at it through one lens, and that really isn't good for any kind of business. So
Yeah, yeah. It's, do you know what? It's D and I has been huge in our space probably for 10 years. I think it's definitely coming along and always advancing. Right. I think it was multicultural and it was women, and I see a lot of people now talking about social. So giving equal opportunity to people from, I don't know, rough areas of low income, but in school you may have been a higher performer than someone from a middle class family, but you've never had an opportunity to go to college.
yep,
So how do you compare, right? And I think that's another one to do. There's people looking to get to hire based on neurodiversity, sexual orientation, right? There's a whole bunch of things that create it. And I mean, there's no silver bullet, something I say a lot, by the way.
yeah, yeah,
um but as someone who's looking to grow and scale and wants people to believe in their business, and they believe in their people and they want to create that, right? How do you get that message without being biased delivered across people who will interpret messages differently? That, because we have biases for a reason. Biases come in because of fear. Do you know what? If I hire 10 people who are all men from the same town that I grew up in, we all support the same football team, they'll know what I mean. They'll just get me.
yeah, yeah. I know. I understand. There's the comfort zone, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
comfort zone is crazy. It can be it can create a sense of delusion because I always believe if you are looking at what's around you, you will only be able to think and work with people that are only in your comfort space, right? If when we talk about diversity and inclusion, and I think it's a very sensitive topic, but if you talk about DEI, and I say this all the time, if you look at jobs that are being published, DEI is important, but if DEI on job descriptions only talks about male, female, and diverse genders, what about every other diversity that stands at the spectrum of diversity? Why are we not addressing those? We're just addressing one side of it. Yes, it's not the there's a lot of sides to diversity. And if you tell me diversity and inclusion and we have this amount of male, this amount of female, this amount of diverse people, that what about the other diversity aspects, the race, the religion, the color, the country, the nationalities? The spectrum is so huge, we only focus all our DEI efforts on one side of things. And to me, I think the problem then becomes when we start to focus on one area, we're ignoring every other area that exists. And the way to overcome this is to hire, I would say, meritocracy based 100%. And rather than, and when I say meritocracy, everyone should make it to the race, but not everyone should win the race, but everyone should make it to the race. You should have systems to evaluate people's capabilities, assessments, whether technical, whether psychological, whether value based assessments, in order to see if they align. And then when I say I'm unbiased, I rank these people without knowing where they're from. And the person who ranks at the top is the person who gets the first priority, regardless of what color, shape, red skin, blue, green, whatever have you. This is a person who made it to the top of the pile based on your suggestions. You should really, if you really, really honor diversity, give the person a chance. At the end of the day, you have a probation period, right?
What was it, Gary V? You probably remember this.
Yeah.
He went pretty viral for saying, it was like, nobody's good at hiring people, but they're really bad at firing people fast.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy, and we as humans we're quick to point ball and we're quick to jump on trends like diversity, but we really don't live up to diversity. And I think it comes, and I think the biggest blame is the HR people. I'm not blaming the whole organization because based on the current processes, HR will look at the applications and say yes and say no. I'll give it to Tom. Tom will say yes to a certain amount of people. I'll give it to Susan. Susan will say no to a certain amount of people, and I'll give it to someone else. These, it's the same requirements, but Tom will give you a short list. Susan will give you a short list. If you bring Mariam will give you another short list. So at the end of the day, it's the same job. All of us have ideas on who is the best person, but we're all looking at it from a different lens.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is you cannot control unconscious bias.
Can I?
I had a person on just one more. I had a person who applied to for 50 jobs. 25% as Jack, 25% is Yassine. Yassine got 0% response
Zero. Damn.
on the exact resume. Exact resume. Jack got 40% response on the exact resume. And 35% of those companies of the 40% sent him offers. So Jack, although had the same profile, exactly word for word as Yassine, Yassine was never called. And then we say we're diverse, we're DI advocates, and we live in an advanced world where we are beyond these nuances that affect or whatever. We're open minded. I applied to a job to a big company. I got called in for my one name, and the other name was not called. It was rejected immediately within 10 minutes of application. So again, these things are factual. They do exist, but it's us to find a way to overcome them, which is quite important.
Can I ask? So, people want to be fair, and they have 3 interviewers, 4 interviewers, relatively inexperienced leaders, founders, whatever we want to say they are right now. How do you recommend they create a scorecard that's fair?
Every organization, before meeting the person, you should have a scorecard.
Let's not talk about ideology here.
No ideology. No, seriously.
I don't.
What is most important to you? Is the language important? Is the experience important? Put in a percentage, and then let's have weightages. And that those weightages should not be done by a person. And this is where AI comes in. Weightage should not be done by a person. Yes, if you train the AI, it can also be biased. But you have an AI that is not trained towards a certain organization culture, that AI should be outside that organization. Because Amazon tried this, having an AI internally, and they failed because it looked at most of your people were men, will continue with men because you have a bias already.
Yeah,
so
remember that.
You should have an AI that's outside that space that evaluates this. And whatever decision it comes up with, if you're really an advocate of DEI, you will accept what the recommendations come through, and slowly we can change the way we think. Because if we continue the path that we're on, we can't have people with masters working at KFC. We can't. That's not right on any level, regardless. And we can't have people experienced 10, 15 years have an issue finding a job. We shouldn't. These are stones, these are gems that we need to take advantage of. And the reason why we're not is either someone looks at the CV saying this person is too expensive. You didn't even find out what the expectation is. How do you know it's expensive? This person might have worked at McDonald's for 6 months. Anything would work for them. And you have given them the benefit. You have not given them the benefit of the doubt by saying, "Oh, this guy's too expensive. His last role was a VP, or his last role was a C-level. He will never join us." But you've already taken a decision even before meeting the person. So Yeah, we need to change the way we do things. Honestly, it's just, and I hope to do so.
Look, hopefully, Mo, you're onto something that can help us do that. I like the idea of anonymous scorecards where AI might help rate with a human in the loop. Of course, sounds like
Yeah.
it could be a way, just stuff to make. Nobody likes to hire. No one likes to do recruiting. That's why people pay me, right? Never mind doing the interviews. They definitely
Yeah,
don't want to source through pages on LinkedIn and
yeah.
thousands of applications. So I wish you the best with that, Mo. And I think, look, with time, we'll call it at a head. It's been an absolute pleasure, everyone. Today's guest is Mo Al-Tamini. If you want to reach out to him, Mo, how will they get you?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm very active. I do a lot of articles. I do a lot of LinkedIn posts, and tell people what I think. I don't hide from the truth. I try my best. Mo Al-Tamimi on LinkedIn, and you should find me. I'm not hard to find.
Nice. Appreciate it, Mo. Thank
All
you.
right.
That concludes another enlightening episode of the Leadership Labs podcast. If you found today's episode thought-provoking and informative, be sure to subscribe to the Leadership Labs on your preferred podcast platform or on YouTube. Thank you once again for joining us on this journey through the Leadership Labs. Until next time.